Percy Jackson episode 7 is here. We are already on the second to last episode of season 2, which is crazy. Welcome to Movie Flame, I'm Morgan Ross, and today I'm going to break down this episode, go over hidden details, compare the plot lines of the show versus the book, and just give my thoughts as we go. It's what we've been doing for the entire season, so you guys know what's up. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and sharing. It will greatly help to grow and sustain the channel. And if you like what you see, hit that subscribe button, and you can also follow me on all of my other social media pages, all of which are linked down below, and all of which house similar content that I make here on this channel. Now, let's get into it. Now, I'm going to start a little differently this time, giving you a small tease of how I felt about this episode. There are things in this episode that are some of the highlights of this season so far, things that blew me away. But there were also some things that were just straight up lowlights. Some of the worst parts of the season so far. And that made this video very interesting to make. This episode is titled, I Go Down with the Ship, which is taken right from the title of Chapter 16 in the Sea of Monsters book. This is interesting because Chapter 16 doesn't really cover anything that happened in this episode. That was just the tail end of them escaping from Polyphemus's island. What this episode actually focuses on is Chapter 17 and Chapter 18. The episode starts off with a little more detail into how Thalia sacrificed herself, as well as the aftermath, as Chiron tells everyone that her sacrifice will protect and be the border for all of camp. I really liked Luke's reaction to this.
Where's her body?
Where's Thalia?
You can hear the sadness, but more importantly, the anger, which is a key reason why he's turned on the camp and joined Kronos. We then see time stop, and young Annabeth sees the tree turning back into Thalia, and we hear Thalia's voice say,
"We take care of our own."
This scene turns out to be a dream of Annabeth, realizing that the fleece can bring Thalia back. And that is a key point of this episode, and definitely something that I want to talk about, because I do not like this plot point at all. I dislike it more than any other plot point that we've seen so far in this season. So for context, in the book, Thalia coming back is crucial to Kronos' character, as well as his brilliance. He was a puppeteer pulling all of the strings. He ordered Luke to poison Thalia's tree, which of course took down the camp's protection. And he had Luke do this, knowing that they would try to restore the barrier with the Golden Fleece. This meant that Luke could follow the Camp Half-Blood demigods to lead him to the Fleece, which would bring Kronos back. But the part of Kronos' plan that he didn't tell anyone was that he fully wanted and intended to make sure that Percy got the Fleece back to camp. Kronos was smart enough to know, unlike anybody else, including Chiron, that the Fleece would not just heal the tree enough to put the barrier back up, but he knew it would actually bring Thalia back to life. And this was crucial for him because it gave him another weapon when it came to the Great Prophecy, which of course says that a child of the Big Three could destroy Olympus. In bringing Thalia back, he had another child of the Big Three that he could try to get on his side and use against the gods. He had already seen that Percy was a lost cause, so this was his next part of the plan. Obviously, Luke failed him when trying to get the Fleece to restore him, but the rest of Kronos' plan, the plan that he didn't tell anyone, did work, and Thalia came back to life. So with all of that in mind, all of the characters now knowing that this was going to happen, it kind of takes that very important plotline away from Kronos. It is no secret whatsoever, as we hear Annabeth not even question if it was going to work, but just straight up knows and only asks how long it will take.
So when Clarice puts the fleece back on the tree, how long will it take to bring Thalia back?
It makes me wonder, had Chiron known that this would bring another child of the Big Three back, would he have even attempted this? Would he have put the Golden Fleece on the tree? We've already seen how ruthless Chiron can be when it comes to Percy, which we saw in episode 2 during his conversation with Annabeth. So how would he react if now Zeus's daughter was here? This didn't matter in the book, because there, he had no idea that Thalia would fully return to her body. And having it play out this way, it also ruins the insane plot twist that takes place at the end of the second book. Reading that for the first time blew my mind. But now that's kind of ruined for the show because everyone, including the audience, already knows that it's coming. One thing that I will give the show credit for when it comes to this change though, is the moment that Percy is in the car. He doesn't say a word as they talk about this, as he's deep in thought, and we see exactly what he's thinking about. He's thinking about the dream he had at the beginning of the last episode, where Thalia was Kronos. This of course very cleverly hints to the fact that Kronos is planning to use Thalia as a weapon, and Percy knows it. So I kind of have mixed feelings about this, but overall I dislike this change more than any other change they've made this season so far. I've been an advocate for most times when they alter the story from book to show, because I know that Rick Riordan is heavily involved in the writing process, but this is one where I think they dropped the ball. However, I will say that if I just put my complaints about this aside and accept the fact that this is how it is, there are some good moments that come from it. It gives us a really nice scene when Luke and Annabeth discuss it.
Luke, I think the fleece can bring Thalia back to us.
And I love when they said Thalia's line together.
We take care
of our own.
We also finally got a mention of how Luke gave Annabeth her knife.
And you brought back my dagger too. Thanks.
It was mine first, remember?
Which I've been waiting for all season. I thought they were going to cut it because instead of giving her the knife in the flashbacks, he just gave her the bracelet. So I'm happy that that was finally said. I also think that everyone knowing that Thalia was going to come back so early added an interesting dynamic between Luke and Kronos, as Luke is angry with him for not telling him that the fleece would bring Thalia back.
Why didn't you tell me that the fleece could bring Thalia back?
And this is most likely something that happened in the book, but it just took place after Thalia had already been restored by the fleece and not before. Kronos pounding into Luke's head was also an interesting detail, and it hints at how tragically manipulated he really is, which gives us a lot of importance to his ultimate character arc, which we'll see play out all the way to season 5. During Luke and Annabeth's conversation, we again see Annabeth trying to bring him back, just like last episode.
Luke, you have to stop this.
But again, she fails to do so. There's a great line here where Luke says he's saving the world by bringing Kronos back.
And he ended up saving the world.
Which again shows how far gone he is. And speaking of Luke being far gone, we see him distraught as he realizes that Annabeth lied to him.
She lied.
This is powerful because Annabeth was the only thing holding him back from fully being all in with Kronos.
She's not the enemy.
And now that he's realized that Annabeth can't be trusted, it's game over. Clarice and Percy have even more great character interactions, as they once again butt heads on what to do. Percy wants to save Annabeth, and Clarice wants to get the fleece. But in the end, they end up doing the complete opposite of what they originally said, as Clarice saves Annabeth and Percy gets the fleece. I love how annoyed Clarice got when she found out that Percy really did succeed on his own in getting the fleece.
Percy went for the fleece.
You think Seatorp's gonna be able to get it on his own? Doesn't mean he has the fleece.
Clarice saving Annabeth was also great character development, and it's another great example of the show humanizing her in a way that the book never did. But don't worry, they still have book Clarice written all over the script, especially in the scene where she takes on 5 demigods.
5 against 1, huh? My kind of odds.
Such a badass moment. I also love how this fight paralleled Percy and Luke's fight that was going on at the same time. There was great choreography in both, and Percy getting stabbed through the elevator was insane. However, I really think that the editing job let this scene down, and my film school brain just couldn't let it go. Right after Percy was stabbed, it cut to black for the commercial, which I doubt most people even get if you just pay for the normal Disney Plus. But anyway, when it cuts back after mere seconds, we see Percy immediately heal himself with the fleece seconds after being stabbed. I would have liked to see the editors cut to Clarice's fight, giving us some suspense of not knowing if Percy was okay. But instead, they let Percy heal himself and then cut back to Clarice's fight. So I don't know why the editors didn't just put Clarice winning the fight in between. They had already been going back and forth for the entire sequence, so why not continue that? Allison gets a lot more time in this episode, and as I've said in previous videos, she's a character that was not in the books. She was made just for the show. But I thought she had some really good moments, like when she called Luke out for protecting Annabeth.
It's my call when to do that. I found it.
And you're using it to heal the enemy instead of healing Kronos.
She also had that moment where she herself spoke to Kronos.
It will be done.
Which is something that I didn't expect. I figured he would only talk to Luke and Percy. I also really like the detail of her reading the magazine Bow Huntress, given the fact that her main weapon is a bow and arrow. We actually saw her reading this in a previous episode as well. Beyond just Allison, we see a lot more of the demigods that joined Luke, including Aiden in the beginning, who we find out is the daughter of Aphrodite, the goddess of love. And this is clear when he likes Allison in what I thought was a pretty funny scene.
Stop checking up on me, okay?
Sorry, Aiden.
The conversation between other demigods in the Titan army was interesting, as one of them clearly fears the gods, who they of course turn their backs on.
This is Zeus we're talking about.
Yeah, can we talk about him a little less? Or like, quieter?
But then another one of them says that they were safe when aligned with the Titan army.
Now the Titans on our side.
Also, I love the fact that they were playing Mytho-Magic,
I guess Aiden went to deal with the harbor master and left his Mytho-Magic deck.
which is a game in the books that wasn't actually shown until book 3, as Nico D'Angelo, who we'll meet in season 3, was obsessed with it. This episode expands on Blackjack the Pegasus. We saw Luke riding him earlier in the season after stabbing Thalia's tree, but he later becomes Percy's Pegasus after that in the book. And Percy rides him throughout the rest of not only this series, but all the series to come as well. He's a special Pegasus, being all black rather than white. We also get a subtle sign that Percy can speak to horses, as the Pegasus tells Percy his name.
Look, buddy, I understand, but I'm in a bit of a hurry. Okay, Blackjack, not Buddy.
Percy is able to do this because his father Poseidon is the god of horses, and being able to speak to Blackjack only makes his relationship with him even stronger. In the scene where Annabeth and Clarice square up, I was like, oh, this is going to be awesome. But then, something even more awesome happened, as Blackjack takes them out by himself. I really like that. I also think that the way Clarice was sent off was so much better than what happened in the book. In the book, her flying back, like the prophecy said, was just her taking a plane. But having Blackjack be the thing that she flies back to camp on was such an improvement, and actually made me so excited. The exchange between Percy and Clarice before she took off was also really sweet, as they finally find common ground. Percy apologizes to her.
You trusted me with your prophecy, and I used it against you. I'm sorry.
And Clarice actually calls him by his real name.
Thanks, Percy.
Shout out to the writers for that whole sequence. It was chef's kiss. I love the part of the episode where Percy goes to Annabeth, and while under the hat, he calls her Wise Girl.
Wise girl.
Which Clarice called her earlier in the series as an insult, but Percy uses it as a compliment. This is Annabeth's equivalent of her nicknaming Percy Seaweed Brain. It's one of my favorite parts of their relationship in the book, so I'm glad they've now incorporated both nicknames into the show. This conversation also has Annabeth tell Percy that the fleece is the most important thing.
She's right. The fleece is all that matters.
And she's sort of angry at him for trying to save her first, which is exactly what Clarice said in the last episode.
Annabeth would understand. She would know that this is bigger than any of us.
And speaking of previous lines coming back up, when Percy talks to Kronos, he mentions a line that Kronos said to him at the end of the season 1 finale.
I remember what you said.
Your survival is the key to my return.
That my survival is the key to your return.
That was a great little throwback. This conversation also gives us the entire prophecy word for word.
The half-blood of the eldest gods shall reach 16 against all odds.
Which in the novels is something we didn't hear until book 5, the last one in the series. Meanwhile, we're only on book 2. I'm not sure how I feel about hearing the prophecy this early, but it was exciting to hear, I will admit. Grover and Tyson's side quest is absolutely hilarious from top to bottom. Both of them realizing that they can't drive was a great bit. But most of all, I love Grover immediately objecting to Percy driving.
Don't know how. But I bet Percy can.
No, bad idea.
Which goes back to season 1 when he was absolutely awful at it.
How hard could this be? My fault.
Then when they resort to calling Sally.
Maybe we should call in someone stronger.
You don't mean...
That was even funnier, and honestly got me kind of hype when she showed up on screen. And Sally in the grocery store made this even better. The line where she says she's been raising a demigod in a cyclops was hilarious.
Grover, I've been mother to a demigod for 13 years and to a cyclops for 1.
Especially when you see the employee's reaction to this. And then she picks them up in a Toyota Prius of all things, and has a sticker that says, "I'd rather be teaching." And Percy's reaction to seeing his mom was great too.
Guys, whose car is this?
Just get in!
Mom?
This whole sequence was just absolute gold. On a more serious note about this though, the way Sally looks at Percy in a worried way while in the car was such a great touch, and it shows how good of a mother she is. I've been loving how much they've added to Sally's character in this show. She did not have a large part in the books past the first novel like this. She would just sort of show up from time to time in pretty small scenes. The ending of the episode got me really hyped for the season finale, as we see the giants at the border of camp, and way off in the distance, we see an army of Camp Half-Blood soldiers awaiting a battle. And then when Kronos tells Luke to invade camp and kill Percy, we have the perfect final shot as Luke gives an evil look, ready to do what must be done. I've rated each episode out of 10, so I'm of course going to do that for this episode as well. I definitely had some problems with this episode. I think they've undermined the power and brilliance of Kronos, which is a real shame. Also, I think they might have jumped the gun with telling us, and also Percy, the prophecy in its entirety this early. But at the same time, I think there were a lot of additions to this episode that I really liked, and that sort of made up for the parts that I disliked. The biggest addition was Sally's involvement in this episode. I also enjoyed Allison's further development, and I think she's turning into a really good character who obviously was not in the books, so I think so far that has been a great addition. Clarice riding Blackjack back to camp rather than taking a plane was a stroke of genius by the writers that really impressed me, especially with how well they intertwined it with the prophecy. Luke and Annabeth's relationship was another strong part of the writing, especially when Annabeth tries to bring him back, which only results in Luke losing all faith in her. This episode shows us his breaking point and that final string being cut, and it happens at the perfect time because he's about to invade camp. Picking a rating for this one was kind of difficult because, as I said in the beginning of the video, there are things that are amazing in this episode, some of the best additions we've seen so far, but there's also some of the worst things we've seen so far. So honestly, I think that it balances out, and I think I'm leaning more toward the good stuff than toward the bad stuff. So I'm going to give this episode an 8.7 out of 10. And I know this kind of goes against the rules because so far I've done a solid number or a 0.5. But I just feel like it's somewhere between 8.5 and 9. I couldn't go with either one. And here you can see the comparisons for the other episodes that I've ranked as well. If you haven't already, you can check out all of my other reviews on both Season 2 and also Season 1 with this playlist here. And here is a link to last week's episode breakdown as well. That's all I have for you guys today though. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next week for the season finale.